Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the book corner. My name is Kat, and normally I post singing videos, but today I'm going to read Chapter 2, Book 1 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. This is Percy Jackson, the Lightning Thief. This is Chapter 2, 3 Old Ladies and the Sock of Death. Now, at the end of this video, I will be showing you a picture from Hercules the movie that has something to do with this particular chapter. I'll also be detailing my small business, but I do that anyways. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Chapter 2. 3 Old Ladies Knit the Socks of Death. I was used to the occasional weird experience, but usually they were over quickly. This was 24/7 hallucinations, more than I could handle. For the rest of the school year, the entire campus seemed to be playing some kind of trick on me. The students acted as if they were completely and totally convinced that Mrs. Kerr, a perky blonde woman whom I've never seen in my life until she got on the bus at the end of our field trip, had been our pre-algebra teacher since Christmas. Every so often, I would bring up Miss Dodds. A Miss Dodds reference on someone, just to see if I could trip them up, but they would stare at me like I was psycho. It got so I almost believed them. Mrs. Dodds had never existed. Almost. But Grover couldn't fool me. When I mentioned the name Miss Dodds to him, he would hesitate and then claim that she didn't exist. But I knew he was lying. Something was going on. Something had happened at the museum. I didn't have much time to think about it during the days, but at night, visions of Mrs. Dodds with talons and leathery wings would wake me up in a cold sweat. The freak weather continued, which didn't help my mood. One night, a thunderstorm blew out the windows of my dorm room. A few days later, the biggest tornado ever spotted in Hudson Valley touched down only 50 miles from Yancey Academy. One of the current events we studied in social studies class was the unusual number of small planes that have gone down in sudden squalls in the Atlantic. Pause for effect. The headmaster sent my mom a letter. Finally, when our English teacher, Miss Nicole, asked me for the millionth time why I was so too lazy to study for spelling tests, I snapped. I called him an old sot. Which I wasn't even sure what it meant, but it sounded good. I started to feel cranky and irritable most of the time. My grades slipped from D's to F's. I got in more fights with Nancy Bobbitt and her friends. I was sent out in the hallway in almost every class. The headmaster sent my mom a letter the following week, making it official. I would not be invited back next year to Yancey Academy. Fine, I told myself, just fine. I was homesick. I wanted to be with our mom in the Upper East apartment, in our little apartment on the Upper East Side, even if I had to go to public school and put up with my obnoxious stepfather at his stupid poker parties. And yet, there were things I'd miss at Yancey. The view of the woods out my dorm window, the Hudson River in the distance, the smell of the pine trees. I miss Grover, who'd been a good friend, even if he was a little strange. I worried about how he'd survive without me. I miss Latin class, too. Sorry, guys, I was texting. I miss Latin class, too. Mr. Brenner's crazy tournament days. His faith that I could do well. As exam week got closer, Latin was the only test I had studied for. I hadn't forgotten what Mr. Brenner said. Had told me about this subject being life and death for me. I wasn't sure why, but I started to believe him. That evening before my final, I got so frustrated with the Cambridge Guide to Greek Mythology, I threw it across my dorm room. Words had started swimming off the page, circling my head, and the letters doing 180s as if they were riding skateboards. There was no way I was going to remember the difference between Chiron and Charon. So, or polydites and polydeuces. And conjugating those Latin verbs, forget it. So at the bottom of this video, I will be, in the description, obviously I'm going to put my small business information, but I have, a doc that I share publicly, and it has a bunch of Greek mythology lists and names and a bunch of stuff. So Chiron is on here. Chiron is a wise centaur, which is a half man, half horse, in Greek mythology, who is a friend and tutor to many Greek legendary heroes, including Achilles and Jason. Chiron's patronage differed from the rest of the centaurs, as he was the child of the Titan Kronos, and the Osead Philyra, which made him immortal. Back to the story. I paced my room, feeling like ants were crawling around my shirt, inside my shirt. I remember Mr. Bruno's serious expression. His 1,000-year-old eyes. I will only accept the best from you, Percy Jackson. I took a deep breath and picked up my mythology book. I'd never asked a teacher for help before. Maybe I could talk to Mr. Bruner. He could give me some pointers. At least I could apologize for the big fat F I was about to score on his exam. I didn't want to leave Yancey Academy with him thinking that I hadn't tried. I walked down the stairs to the faculty offices. Most of them were dark and empty, except for Mr. Bruner's, which the door was ajar, a light from his window stretching across the hallway. I was 3 steps from the door from the door handle when I heard the voices inside the office. Mr. Bruner asked a question. A voice that was definitely Grover's said, "Worried about Percy, sir." I froze. I'm not usually an eavesdropper, but I dare you to try not to listen if you hear your best friend talking about you to an adult. I inched closer. "Alone this summer," Grover was saying. "I mean, a kindly one, in the school." Now that we know that for sure, and they know too, we wouldn't only make matters worse by rushing him, Mr. Bruner said. We need the boy to mature more, but he may not have more time. The summer solstice deadline will have to be resolved without him, Grover. Let him enjoy his ignorance while he still can. Sir, he saw her. His imagination, Mr. Bruner insisted. The mist over the students and the staff will be enough to convince him of that. Sir, I can't fail my duties again. Grover's voice was choked with emotion. You know what that would mean. You haven't failed, Grover, said Mr. Bruner, said kindly. I should have seen her for what she was. Now, let's just worry about keeping Percy alive until next fall. The mythology book dropped out of my hand and hit the floor with a thud. Mr. Bruner went silent, my head hammering. I picked up the book and backed down the hall. A shadow slid across the light of glass of Bruner's office door. The shadow of something much taller than any wheelchair-bound teacher holding something that looked suspiciously like an archer's bow. I opened the nearest door and slipped inside. A few seconds later, I heard a slow clop, 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 like muffled wood blocks. Then, a sound like an animal snuffing the light outside my door. A large dark shape paused in front of the glass, then moved on. A bead of sweat trickled down my neck. Somewhere in the hallway, Mr. Bruner spoke. Nothing, he murmured. My nerves hadn't been right since the winter solstice. Mine neither, Grover said. But I could have sworn... Go back to the dorm, Mr. Brunner said. You've got a long day of exams tomorrow. Don't remind me. The lights went out in Mr. Brunner's office. I waited in the dark for what seemed like forever. Finally, I slipped out into the hallway and made my way back up to the dorm. Grover was lying in his bed studying his Latin exam notes, like he'd been there all night. Hey, he said bleary-eyed. You going to be ready for this test? I didn't answer. You look awful, he frowned. Is everything okay? Just... tired. I turned so he couldn't read my expression and started getting ready for bed. I didn't understand what I heard downstairs. I wanted to believe I imagined the whole thing. One thing was clear. Grover and Mr. Brunner were talking about me behind my back. They thought I was in some kind of danger. The next afternoon, as I was leaving the 3-hour exam, my eyes were swimming with all the Greek and Roman names I'd misspelt. Mr. Brunner called me back inside. For a moment, I was worried he found out about my eavesdropping the night before. But that didn't seem to be the problem. Percy, he said, don't be discouraged about leaving Yancey. It's for the best. His tone was kind, but his words still embarrassed me. Even though he was speaking quietly, the other kids finishing their tests could hear. Nancy Bobbitt smirked at me and made sarcastic kissing noise, little kissing motions with her lips. I mumbled, okay, sir. Mr. Brunner wheeled his chair back and forth, like he wasn't sure what to say. This isn't the right place for you. It was only a matter of time. My eyes stung. Here he was, my favorite teacher, in front of the class, telling me I couldn't handle it. After saying he believed in me all year, now he was telling me I was destined to get kicked out. Right, I said, trembling. No, Mr. Brunner said. Oh, confound it all. What I'm trying to say is that you're not normal, Percy. That's nothing to be... Thanks, I blurted out. Thanks a lot, sir, for reminding me. Percy! But I was already gone. The last day of term, I shoved my clothes into my suitcase. The other guys were joking around about talking about their vacation plans. One of them was going on a hiking trip to Switzerland. Another was taking a cruise around the Caribbean for a month. They were juvenile delinquents like me, but they were rich juvenile delinquents. Their daddies were executives or ambassadors or celebrities or something. I was a nobody from a family of nobodies. They asked me what I'd be doing this summer. I told them I was going back to the city. What I didn't tell them was I'd have to get a summer job walking dogs or selling magazines subscriptions and spend my free time worrying about where I go to school in the fall. Oh, one of the guys said, that's cool. They went back to their conversation as if I never existed. The only one person I dreaded saying goodbye to was Grover, but as it turned out, I didn't have to. He booked a ticket to Manhattan on the same Greyhound as I did. So there we were, together again, heading into the city. During the whole bus ride, Grover kept glancing at me nervously, down the aisle watching the other passengers. It occurred to me that he always acted nervously and fidgety when we left Yancey, as if he expected something bad to happen. Before, I'd always assumed he was worried about getting teased. But there was nobody to tease him with a Greyhound. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore. I said, looking for kindly ones? Grover nearly jumped out of his seat. What do you mean? I confessed about the eavesdropping on him and Mr. Brunner the night before the exam. Grover's eye twitched. How much did you hear? Oh, not much. What's the summer solstice deadline? He winced. Look, Percy. I was just worried for you. You see? I mean, hallucinating about demon math teachers? Grover! And I was telling Mr. Bruner that you were overstressed or something. Because there was no such person as Miss Dodds, and Grover, you are a really, really bad liar. His ears turned pink. From his shirt pocket, he fished out a business card. Just take this, okay? In case you need me this summer. The card was a fancy script, which was murder on my dyslexic eyes. But I finally made out something like Grover Underwood, Half-Blood Hill Keeper, Long Island, New York, 800 009 009 0009. I want to see if it works. Alright, we'll do that later. What's half? Don't say it out loud, he yelped. That's, my, summer address. My heart sank. Grover had a summer home. I never considered that his family might be rich as others at Yancey. Okay, I said grumbly. So, like, if I was to come visit your mansion, he nodded. Or if you need me. Why would I need you? It came out harsher than I meant it to. Grover blushed right down to his Adam's apple. Look, Percy, the truth is, I kind of have to protect you. I stared at him. All year long, I'd gotten into fights, keeping bullies away from him. I lost sleep worrying that he'd get beat up next year without me, and here he was acting as if he was the one who defended me. Grover, I said, what exactly are you protecting me from? There was a huge grinding noise under our feet. Black smoke poured from the dashboard, and the whole bus filled with a smell like rotten eggs. The driver cursed and limped to the Greyhound. Over to the side of the highway. A few minutes clanking around the engine. The driver announced that we'd all have to get off. Grover and I filed outside with everybody else. We were on a stretch of country road.
Shut up!
Sorry guys, that's my ringtone. We were on a stretch of country road, no place you'd notice if you didn't break down there. On our side of the highway was nothing but maple trees and litter from passing cars. On the other side, across 4 lanes, was an old-fashioned fruit stand. The stuff on sale looked really good. Heaping boxes of blood-red cherries and apples, walnuts and apricots, jugs of cider, and a clawfoot tub full of ice. There were no customers. Just 3 old ladies sitting on rocking chairs. in the shade of a maple tree, knitting the biggest pair of socks I've ever seen. These socks were the size of sweaters, but they were clearly knitting socks. The lady on the right knitted one of them. The lady on the left knitted the other. The lady in the middle held the enormous basket of electric blue yarn. All three women looked ancient, with pale faces, wrinkled like fruit leather. Silver hair tied back into white bandanas. The bony arms sticking out of bleached cotton dresses. The weirdest thing was they seemed to be looking right at me. I looked over at Grover to say something about this and saw that the blood had drained from his face. Grover? I said, "Hey man, tell me they're not looking at you. They are, aren't they?" "Yeah, weird, huh? You think those socks would fit me?" "Not funny, Percy. Not funny at all." The old lady in the middle took a huge pair of scissors, gold and silver, long bladed like shears. I heard Grover catch his breath. "We're getting on the bus," he told me. "Come on." "What?" I said. "Sorry, I have a minute. It's 1,000 degrees in there." Across the road, the old ladies were still watching me. The middle one cut the yarn. I swear I could hear the snip across 4 lanes of traffic. Our two friends balled up the electric blue socks, leaving me to wonder who they could possibly be for. Sasquatch or Godzilla? At the rear of the bus, the driver wrenched a big chunk of smoking metal out of the engine compartment. The bus shuddered and the engine roared back to life. The passengers cheers. "Darn right," yelled the bus driver. He slapped the bus with his hat. "All right, everybody, back on board." Once we got going, I started to feel feverish, as if I caught the flu. Grover didn't look much better. He was shivering and his teeth were chattering. "Grover?" "Yeah?" "What are you not telling me?" He dabbed his forehead with his sleeve. "Percy, what did you see back at the fruit stand?" "You mean the old ladies?" "What is this about? What is it about them, man? They're not like Mrs. Dodds, are they?" His expression was hard to read, but I got this feeling that the fruit stand ladies were something much, much worse than Mrs. Dodds. He said, "Just tell me what you saw." The middle one took out her scissors and she cut the yarn. He closed his eyes and made a gesture with his fingers that might have been him crossing himself. But it wasn't. It was something else, something almost older. He said, "You saw her snip the cord." "Yeah, so?" But even as I said it, I knew it was a big deal. "This is not happening," Grover mumbled. He started chewing at his thumb. "I don't want this to be like last time." "What last time?" "Always 6th grade. They never get past 6th. "Grover!" I said, because it was really starting to scare me. "What are you talking about?" "Let me walk you home from the bus station. Promise me." This seemed like a strange request to me, but I promised he could. "Is this like a superstition thing?" I asked. No answer. "Grover, that snipping of the yarn, does that mean someone's going to die?" He looked at me mournfully, like he was already picking the flowers I'd like on my best coffee. So I hope you enjoyed that reading of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Book 1, The Lightning Thief. The picture I was showing you more than once is These Are Fate. And in the movie Hercules, when they snip the cord, they are ending someone's life. So there is fate right there, and fate is going to be the next thing that I put in my my Greek mythology sheet. Oh, I wanted to call this number to see if it worked. So we're going to go on phone. So I have phone, my keypad, 800 009 1239. Ready? I'm nervous.
Again, announcement 4. Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. Announcement.
Alright. So we know the number doesn't work. It's not a real phone number. I will go into research and see why that number is significant and if it repeats itself. Again, my name is Kat. I will be doing this almost every day. Also below is my my information for my small business if you guys like to place an order. I don't have a website, but I have an email, phone number, and Facebook. So I hope you guys have a great day. Bye!